Good evening and welcome to another episode of VI Voices. It is September 11th, 2012, and we welcome you tonight as we continue our series on the senatorial candidates for the 2012 election. Tonight we have with us Senator Samuel Sanis, Senator Natalie Nelson, and a candidate for the senatorial race, Mr. Troy Mason.
And before we start off though, let's just take a quick moment of silence to remember those who passed away in 9/11, which is today.
Thank you. And that's one of the reasons why I'm wearing this shirt. My red, white, and blue is just to give honor to my country. And so, yes, there was a horrible thing that happened 11 years ago, and I'm sure that each person will remember where they were when that happened.
Definitely. Most definitely.
And so we thank our troops who have participated and protected our freedom so that we're able to do what we do here every night, talk freely, and most importantly, vote. It's going to be extremely important that you vote like your life depends on it in 2012, both nationally and locally. But we're going to continue to begin tonight, as we do every night, with some hot topics. And tonight, the government has struck again. We now have Bill number 29-424, which is a bill to amend our local VI code to delete the requirement that any employee assigned to regular scheduled work between the hours of 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. shall be paid a night differential.
That's a hard blow. It's already bad enough because I know of different agencies that are already not getting paid in violation of the law as it refers to the night differential, and now to have a bill that's proposing to delete it altogether on top of the fact that they already have been subjected to 8%, I think that is really a blow to the people of the Virgin Islands. We can't afford to take it anymore.
Working men and women are again under attack by this administration, by our senators. I mean, come on, how much more can the working men and women of this community take?
Is this strategic though? It's September, it's Labor Awareness Month. The working men and the women of the Virgin Islands and elsewhere carries the community. And here it is, we have a situation where they're actually being attacked. They're under attack.
But this is Romney's America. This is Romney's America. This is where working men and women get to go out. They get the shaft. This is back. We're going, excuse me for this remark. We're taking us back to the plantation. Sooner or later, the plantation is going to move right in, and you're going to what? You're going to have to call the man Massa.
But you know why this is devastating? Because I know personally people who are struggling to get by on the salaries that they're now subjected to with 8%. And that's the reality we face in the Virgin Islands. They have to hold 2 and 3 jobs to try to make ends meet. And to cut corners, every little area that they can possibly survive on, to me, there's no description for how I feel about doing something like that to the people. And the timing couldn't be worse.
Well, government, people shouldn't fear the government. Or the government, people shouldn't fear the government. The government should fear the people. And in saying so, I think that at some point, when the people are enough, the people will start to push back. And either man
at some point,
when is that? When will the outrage
that point is near. I talk to
You
people
think?
on a regular basis, and I'm on the streets on a regular basis, and people are starting to organize, and people are starting to group. And at some point, you're going to see it. I am telling you, it's coming, and the more they push.
But Boyd, may I ask a question? Do you know how long they have been under attack? How more do these people want to take? What are they? Are they so Christian-like that they keep taking more and more and they're turning the other cheek? It's a time they need to stand up, get up, and act up.
And what I am saying is that time is near.
Well, you know, one of the problems that I have with this bill is that, it is once again a bill that will alter CBAs that are in place, that mandate that you get a differential pay if you're going to be placed to work during that time frame. Now, that's what was so dangerous about Judge Gomez's decision the other day when he said there was no contract clause violation, because it gave the government the right to to do whatever they want. I don't know why anybody would ever contract with the government of the Virgin Islands when they can just get up and say, oh, we don't have any money, so we're going to change that, we're going to change this, we're going to change that, and you can do nothing about it.
But remember, we had Senator Neville James here last night on the show, and he indicated about the top heaviness with all of these unclassified workers. Remember that? 1,800 plus. And there was an attempt by the minority to propose a bill that would somehow reduce that to help with the savings. But check this out. It seems to be that the unions are under attack because there is an attempt, at least this is the appearance that it gives, to erode the membership in the unions. If you look at it, the unions are getting smaller and smaller. And union busting and bringing in employees or exempt employees to fill union positions in exempt status.
I have said this before, I'm going to say it again. We need some Puerto Ricans in St. Croix. This will never happen in Puerto Rico. I mean, yeah, but the ones are in Puerto Rico. Because this would never happen in Puerto Rico.
But you know the problem is that we don't need no Puerto Ricans in the Virgin Islands. What we need the Virgin Islanders to start to step up to the plate and stop.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the theory. My point is, if this bill, if the Vaisa had been done in Puerto Rico, nobody would have any services in Puerto Rico. Nobody would go back to work.
Would you have stand up?
Absolutely, go back to, I'm different though.
No, but you would have stand up. I would have. And you know the other people in them would do? They would talk about you. Why don't you just sit down and shut up?
But remember, Clint, people like Emile, myself, we represent unions. We promote union membership. We want the unions to stay alive. But what is going on here is a direct attack that eventually the union is going to become non-existent. The union numbers are dwindling left, right, and center.
The union already non-existent.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not a factor. Look at the leadership.
No, but you see,
look at the leadership of the union. Look at the positions that are created for union leaders.
But think about it.
In the absence of union leaders. And not only that, I mean,
that's a good point.
Who's in charge of the unions? The union should be local.
Are they working for the unions? Are they working for management?
The union should be local. The union should be a local thing.
And the union have attack from all around. You have people that are coming in that you have people moving into exempt position, then you're moving exempt employees into classified position. Right. So what do? You're weakening the membership from inside, and you're also weakening them from taking away union positions.
There's going to be major effects with these kinds of bills, and we have to monitor them. And I promise you that we will be monitoring them here at VI Voices. This, I'm sure, will be another bill that will be placed on the Senate session for Thursday before Finance and Friday before Rules, and I can guarantee you this bill and the bill we talked about last night will make its way before the full Senate probably by next week. But we'll monitor it and see what happens.
Really?
But we will now take a quick break, and then we'll have Senator Sanis here in the hot seat, and we can ask him all what we want to ask him and see what will happen. We'll be back in a moment. Good evening and welcome back to VI Voices. We are here with Senator Samuel Sanis, another incumbent who is seeking re-election to the 30th legislature of the Virgin Islands. Good evening, Senator Sanis.
Good evening, sir.
It is a pleasure to have you here tonight, and you were here as we were discussing the hot topics.
Oh, yes, I was.
And one of the topics we discussed was this Bill 424 having to do with deleting the requirement of night differential for employees who are placed on regular work hours. And last night we discussed an issue of Bill 431, which dealt with the preclusion of employees being able to seek their reimbursement for the monies from their 8% taken from them. So the question naturally to you is, what were you all thinking in the 20th legislature when this bill came forward?
Well, actually, with this, when I read those two bills, I immediately decided that it wasn't going to get my support right away. I can tell you that much.
And why is that?
Because we already put enough. How can I say it? We put too much on the people of the Virgin Islands right now with the 8% cut. And I know that a lot of individuals think that it wasn't necessary at that time. But at one point or the other, we had to make a decision. We had to make a decision to keep services rolling, to keep services continuing in the government. So we decided to go with the 8% cut. Yes, it wasn't the best, but it was a decision that had to be made. And I, as a leader of the people of the Virgin Islands, as an elected leader, I decided to go with that. However, with these two bills that are coming up, I think it's a little bit too much. I truly, and this is my opinion, as a Hispanic senator from Puerto Rican descent.
So we have at least one on there.
We got one of them there
Okay.
on the island. I think that those two bills, in my opinion, should not even be introduced. They will be introduced, but I don't think at this time that they have the support.
But it says by request of the governor on both of them.
It can be.
Senator Raleigh Russell by request of the governor.
It can be by the request of the Queen of England, and it's still, in my opinion, not going to get.
Well, before we go forward, let's just for the listening audience explain what you mean by request of the governor. The governor at any point can send down a bill to legislature he wants reviewed, he wants done, and by law it goes through the Senate President's office.
Yes.
However, the Senate President doesn't have to act on a bill that comes from the governor.
That's right.
In other words, you can say, well, I don't like this bill, I'm putting it to the side. And then the governor then has to call a special session to order it there. In this situation, Senator Ronald Russell, who's the Senate President, took it up and sends it off for it to, and assign it to committee, because it's been pro forma, and sends it off to the Finance Committee, both of the bills, as well as to the Rules Committee after that. So
can we conclude then that he agrees with the bill?
But the fact that he did it the fact he took it and sent it off, I would think so.
But this isn't Senator Russell's time, this is Senator Sanders.
Correct.
Senator Sanders. Now, I am a union member. I'm a card-carrying member of USW 9489. The VSA bill, 8%. You said you voted in the affirmative. Now, why should I, as a union member, consider you for re-election on this ballot come November 6th?
In reference to what? In reference to?
To your affirmative vote for about 8% cut.
Well, I'm going to tell you why. When the decision came to make the 8% cut, we put all our cards on the table.
No, stop there. Did you truly put all the cards on the table?
Yes, we
because
did.
as a voter and as a resident of the Virgin Islands and a citizen of the United States of America, I have yet to see the financial statements of the United States Virgin Islands government. I have yet to see where it says in black and white, we are in financial hardship. And they say clearly, the Virgin Islands, the government is by the people, for the people, and of the people.
Okay.
It's your turn now.
But you saying that I, as a member of the Finance Committee, have seen the documents. I have reviewed it. I have gone to every single budget hearing. I have questioned them extensively, and that's where I got my information from.
Correct.
The information is there. It is available. You can go to my office. I can give you the entire package. That I base my decision on that information that I received. That information that I received from the finance team.
Correct.
And I do understand your concern. I truly do. But the fact of the matter is this: the finance team that the government has is comprised of Virgin Islanders. There is no conspiracy theory. They are individuals that we grew up with.
But you know what, Samuel?
Yes,
let me
ma'am.
just stop you right there. Those people make significant salaries. Okay?
And I agree with
50,
you.
60, 75. The people who are hurting, the people who make in the categories of 20, 25, and $30,000, they are hurting. I mean, these people with 8% making $75,000, $80,000, so be it. Maybe they cut a little fringe here and there. But what about the people who need their money in order to meet their day-to-day expenses?
And I totally
They're
agree
the
with
ones
you.
that are hurting.
We came with different solutions in terms of the sliding scale. And people getting more would be cut more.
You see what I'm saying?
That was
Not
turned
across
down.
the board.
We had the solution that came with the 6905, repealing the 6905. I can tell you straight out that myself and another senator have put in so many drafting requests that we can wallpaper an entire house in terms of trying to find out what we can do to reduce costs. And some of us do. Some of us drive our own cars. Some of us pay for our own gas. Last year, myself, I saved $110,000 from my budget. $110,000. I know for sure that a senator's budget can be cut by 33%, and I plan to introduce that. We can do more with less.
Now, I want to give you some opportunity to talk about some of the other things you've done, because I don't want the audience to get the perception that your entire 2 years have been all wound up with the VISA bill. I'm sure you've done other things since you've been in the Senate. Talk to the people about what you've done since you've been in the Senate that has been for the people of the Virgin Islands, and if you are reelected, what you intend to do in the third legislature.
Well, I'm going to tell you something that I'm doing right now, which I think is extremely important, and it deals with energy. And I'm going to tell you real quick. In 2006, before I became a senator, I started looking around, and I know that one of the reasons why we're in this situation right now, economic situation, is because of the cost of energy. So I started contacting different energy entities in the United States, and I started getting information. Entities such as Dominion, which is a huge energy provider in the States. They started forwarding me information. I gave that information to WAPA. Unfortunately, nothing came through. So what I decided to do when I became a senator in 2008, I started pushing for natural gas. I brought people from the States. We had workshops in my office. I started introducing the concept. And finally, a year and a half ago, WAPA finally decided, hey, we're going to look at natural gas as an option. So what I did, I started pushing it some more, and we went in front of the energy office, in front of Mr. Carl Knight. We did our presentation. We went in front of the governor and Mr. Hugo Hodge, and the concept is there of natural gas. We have a proposal right now that we're going to be presenting this Thursday to the Chamber of Commerce, and I spoke to Hugo Hodge, and the RFQ is coming down in reference to natural gas. So that's one of the biggest things that I've done. To be honest with you, I, in my opinion, believe that if we can resolve this energy crisis that we're in, we are going on our way up. Because the energy crisis and the crime crisis is what's really affecting us. We are under siege. We are in an environment right now that certain individuals are taking over the streets. They're taking over our community, taking over our society. You go down to Federal State or Christian State on any given night, and people, decent people, families are afraid to walk.
Doesn't research shows that crime is directly related to the economic conditions of a certain locale?
And high energy cost is directly connected to
a lot of that.
Exactly.
So how do you then put forth whether it's legislation or policy? Because now you're talking about policy changes at the WAPA level.
Yes.
To change our energy crisis. But what about legislation? I mean, sound legislation that deals with energy conservation and developing new energy sources in the Virgin Islands.
And we have done that. What we've done amendments to the energy bill, as you know, to make it easier for individuals to get solar panels.
No, easier to get solar panels. But what about mandating that homes, businesses retrofit and have solar panels?
We did.
New homes being built have all of that.
We did pass a law that mandates that not private enterprise, not private homes. We did mandate that new government buildings have to go green. That is mandated. And as you know, many of these government entities now, once they move or they lease a new building, they are following that mandate. They are going green. So to me, that's very important. And it's important not just to save energy. I'm going to tell you why. Going green is actually saving our lives. And the reason I'm saying that is that many of our buildings that government employees are working are sick. Many of them are sick because of the mold. These are old buildings. By going green, by using the right equipment, by using the right lights, by using the right cleaning utensils, we'll be able to stop all this mold that's affecting our people. We have a high percentage of asthma, of people getting sick because of this mold situation. Not just, of course, in government buildings, but in these other buildings.
But with the legislation that you're pushing, how long do you think it will take us to get out of this economic crisis, particularly as it relates to the energy situation? Because as you know, the LEAC is, look downtown Christian State and even Frederick State, businesses are closing, and mainly because they can't carry the water bill.
In fact, businesses have closed.
Yeah. You know,
we have, and right here, I left you a copy of my proposal. You can also go to my website.
Please let them know what your website is.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, it's www.senetorsannist.com. In my website, the entire proposal is there. And basically, from the minute that we get our permits, it will take us between 12 to 14 months to complete. Once we get our permits. The thing about this proposal is that right away, pre-construction jobs will be between 500 to 800 individuals. After it's finished being built, we're going to have at least between 200 and 300 jobs available. So it's not just to resolve our energy crisis, but it's also to give employment opportunities to the people of the Virgin Islands.
Now, one other area you focused on this year, as of course the head of the Public Safety Committee, has been bills that have to deal with our public safety.
Yes.
Tell the audience some of the bills that you've put forth.
Well, the first bill that I worked on was, there was already a ban on automatic weapons, but unfortunately, because of the way the language was was written, there was a loophole. What I did is I straightened the language to make any automatic weapon illegal. The only individuals that can carry automatic weapons are law enforcement. That was my first bill. A couple of bills also that I pushed forward was the one in terms of making, and this has to do with public safety, making cell phones and laptops illegal in our prison. Okay. The other one that I'm pushing for right now, which is very controversial, but is the introduction of peace officers status for federal law enforcement.
Which is extremely controversial because, as we know, this past week you lost quorum in your meeting to deal with that issue, which, in and of itself is kind of distressing because you're going to be facing what I believe is already a lame duck Senate, since you have at least 6 people who won't be coming back to the incumbents, who won't be coming back.
What happened Friday to me, whether you're for or against the bill, I think is your duty as an elected senator, as an elected leader of the people of the Virgin Islands to cast a vote, to vote yes or no, to be there, to represent the people and cast a vote. In what certain individuals did by not showing up or by walking away, I think it was disrespectful not just to my committee but to the people of the Virgin Islands. I think that an elected representative, regardless of whether he's going to vote yes or no, should also state his opinion.
Now, I will tell you, some of the people on Facebook have stated, and I can say because I do know Senator Sanis before he was a senator, and I can vouch for the fact that he is genuinely a nice person. Some of the comments the Facebook people are saying is that you just seem a little too nice, too apologetic, and sometimes it's okay to, well, we use the term here at RTD, root out somebody when they've not done what they're supposed to do without having to apologize for saying to somebody you're wrong and being stern with that.
He's a gentleman.
It happened on Friday. I lost my cool. I didn't apologize. I lost my cool, but the fact is that I consider myself a gentleman. You know that. I've worked with you for many. I've worked with you for many years, but I get the job done. In the 2008, and this is not to pat myself in the back, Generation Now did a review of all the senators' bills and legislation, and I was selected as the most effective senator in the 28th legislature.
And it was very comprehensive review that they did.
Exactly, and not only that, I was selected as the most effective senator as a freshman senator.
Right. But that's because you were trying to push legislation that was effective. I mean, legislation that had substance to it.
Exactly.
Which is what makes a difference. Because at the end of the day, what I think the legislatures that you all lose sight of is what your primary reason for being there is.
But can I ask this, Senator?
Yes, sir.
Basically, the people who walked out on you were your own majority members.
Yes.
And so, what if you talk about leadership and camaraderie and team building? And how does that fit within you and your majority? Because your own walkout, it wasn't the 3 minority nor the non-aligned senator who walked out on you, but your own people who should be building coalition with, be caucusing with. They basically left you out there.
And I want you to answer, we're running out of time, so I want you to answer that question and just let the audience know, why they should re-elect you to the 30th legislature.
Just real quick, to be honest with you, I don't think right now that we do have a majority minority. I don't think that way. I have supported bills that came from the minority. I'll give you an example. I supported Senator Nelson's bill when it comes to introducing horticulture into the classroom. I think I was the only majority that gave it a push because I believe in it. I believe in pushing bills that would benefit the people of the Virgin Islands, not because it came from a majority or a minority. To me, basically, we need to surpass that concept and just do what's best for the people of the Virgin Islands. Okay. And in terms of your question, what I'm asking the people of the Virgin Islands is to continue believing in me. Look at my past, look what I have accomplished, look at the ideas that I bring in now. Most important of all, even though the peace officers bill is controversial, it is my opinion that it will save lives. And right now we're in a crisis. Just this past weekend we had 2 killings in St. Thomas. A few months ago, in less than 2 months, we had 4 police officers shot in the line of duty. There's a possibility that those 4 police officers are not coming back to the force. And that's why I strongly believe in this peace officers bill. And also too, I'm pushing this natural gas. I think the natural gas proposal, I think, is the best solution at this time for the people of the Virgin Islands, and not just natural gas. Natural gas, along with solar and along with wind, would be very, very beneficial to the people of the Virgin Islands.
Senator Sanders, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. We are very pleased that you were here. And can you give the website and your number of where they can contact you?
Sure. My number is 712-2278 or 690-8861, and my website is www.senetors.com.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
And what's your number on the ballot?
31.
Yes. He's number 31 on the ballot. And thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Gracias.
We will be back. We will be back in a moment. Good evening and welcome back to VI Voices. We have with us Mr. Troy Mason, who is seeking a seat in the 30th Legislature of the Virgin Islands. Good evening, Mr. Mason, and how are you? Welcome to VI Voices.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me.
So, this is not your first foray into this senatorial race. Tell us a little about yourself and who you are, and why you are running for a seat again in the 30th Legislature.
My name is Troy Mason. I grew up right here in St. Croix. I have been living here basically my whole life, apart from when I attended college in the U.S. mainland. I father of 5. I have been in this race because I've seen things that has made me very unhappy. In the last 8 years running in this race, I have heard promises and promises and promises, and up till today, I still hear the exact same things, still unfixed. And I think that has been my drive to continue to try and get a seat in this legislature, to show that there are answers to all these questions.
No, Troy. Both of us from a very similar community. Grew up in Paradise, you from Williams Delight. Now, if you're speaking to us, those folk that live in Williams Delight, why should I vote for you when basically my roads are broken up, politicians keep coming through, they haven't kept the promise? How can we say that you're going to keep that promise and make sure that at least my roads will be repaired come sometime 2013, 2014?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Ferris. And if you, like you said, we came from similar projects basically. And if you know me and everyone knows me, well, just to let you know, I'm the Vice President for the Homeowners Association in Williams Delight. First, I was a board member, and I was recently elected Vice President. I have been fighting and fighting, long hours with no pay, to try and get Williams Delight fixed. This is not something, some people are just hearing about this. This is something I've been doing since I came back from college in 1998. It has been so bad that we've been appropriated money, but when you're appropriated money to have your roads fixed, yeah, it's a good thing when you hear you were appropriated $3.2 million, and it sounds real fabulous, right? But at the end of the day, when you don't see the work done, it's different. And then you have people who are fighting constantly. Myself, along with Ms. Blackman, who's the president of our Homeowners Association, has been fighting for years. Up till yesterday, we had Public Works in there because they're about to start a different phase, and yet still the same argument with them. How can you start a new phase when the other 2 phases you done are still incomplete and unsatisfactorily done?
So basically they're phasing in and phasing out?
Yeah, they're phasing. Okay. Yet still, we're using the same company who is doing what we consider bad work.
Understandably so. You're a new face. You're definitely not a new face, but you've now made it beyond the primary, you're in the general.
Yes.
Beyond just the feel good. What can you truly offer to your base? And I don't know who your base is. If you can tell us who your base is, who you think you appeal to. And what do you offer to them? And what do you see in your first term, your first 2 years? Name 3 things you think you can achieve for your base.
Well, my base right now, I tell people I'm for the kids, I'm for the future. I am very young. A lot of people...
Stop. What I mean, I'm for the future. Because
Yes.
I've said before that I don't want to hear anybody running for office telling me the children of the future. I'm tired of hearing it. We all know that. So give me something different other than that. What exactly will be your plan when you get into office to deal with our education system, to deal with our economic issues, to deal with our energy crisis.
Okay, I'll attack energy first.
Okay.
I continuously hear candidates and senators come and talking about wind energy, solar energy, and all this stuff. When in reality, there are small programs right here today that can make a difference in certain people's life and trickle down, because I personally feel that all the problems that we have here in our government are all related in some way. It's a domino effect. If you break some down, others will reap benefits in return. For example, solar energy. About a couple of years ago, a couple of friends of mine at work came to me and said, Troy, how about we get into this here? And they introduced me to something that's going on in the energy office that not much people know. Basically, if you want to put solar energy onto your house, there is money in the energy office. Well, now it's done because the monies were depleted because a lot of people found out and they went out to it. And you can go out and buy solar panels, put them up to your house. Not only that, there's also where WAPA can assist you by putting you on a payment plan to pay the rest of it. It's a whole direct system. And if anyone wants, I can basically, it's too detailed to discuss right here. But at the end of the day, I see the savings from this program. What kind of savings, you ask? For example, one of my friends, his house is totally solar. Let's say his house uses 5 megawatts of power or 5 kilowatts of power a month. His solar panels produces, the way he set it up, it produces a little more than that. So he's on a grid with WAPA where whatever he produces over that goes to WAPA. They basically get to use it. So he's basically given into the system. Now, you know, solar, you have to have sun to get this power. There are days when we have overcast skies, rainy days, so he's not going to produce as much as needed. This surplus is then bounced back to him. So at the end of the month, there's a total, and if your total of what you made is over what you used, basically you get a bill saying that WAPA not actually owes you money, but you're in a point where you have extra for another month that you may fall short.
So how would you get that to the regular people?
How would I get
friend
it?
has it.
My biggest problem,
you get it to the people?
My biggest problem with it right now is there's not enough money in the budget for that. I think we need to put more money into the budget so that more people can be introduced into this system.
But the problem you have, as you hear, they don't have any money.
So we do that. The money.
They don't have any money.
They don't have enough money.
That's when you get into the Senate. Let's say you make it in. That's one of the problems you're going to face. A moneyless government. So how are you going to face? You know, what are you going to go say? Oh well, you know, I have this great proposal and I would like to get it. It's not going to work that way.
I keep hearing we don't have enough money. I keep hearing this from our government. But
Senator Sanders was just here. He said he had all the books and you can go to his office
because we're spending money uselessly. To me, I see too many things that we're doing right now. Okay, we don't have any money, but a month ago the governor was able to find $500,000 to give to a company to come and negotiate with our big refinery that shut down. Where did that money come from? I thought we had no money.
Didn't the money come from the PFA?
I thought we had no money.
But you see, and you're right.
So I thought we had no money. I personally feel, this is me, I personally feel there is money there, and if we look the right places and cut costs and do what we're supposed to do rather than trying to take...
Like what?
What kind of costs?
Yeah, like what?
I personally feel one of the biggest bills our government has right now is a gasoline bill. Basically, to me, everyone drives a car that is owned by the government, and the gasoline is paid by the government.
But is that enough to really solve our economic woes?
It may not solve it, but it'll take a chip off the block, and it'll, like, you know, I listen to Mario show sometimes, and one thing I always hear that I believe in, one fills the basket. This may not knock off $10 million off our budget, but it'll start somewhere and lead to something else.
But in all due respect to the government, have they tried this before where they've taken...
I haven't heard anyone talking about that.
Well, my recollection is sometime in the past, there was a proposal to take the government vehicles off the road after a certain hour in the day. You know, they tightened
my recollection is I still see the cars.
There was a proposal,
yeah,
but it never happened.
No, but let me put
but there was a proposal for 8% and it happened.
No, but when a man who goes around filming had a target for 24 hours used to drive a vehicle up and down. No, what's the problem? There's something wrong. So basically that one isn't working in the Virgin Islands government.
Maybe those people are on call.
They're on call to go from who? But let me talk about this. Mr. Mason.
Yes.
Education. We talk about energy. Education. How are you going to address education? Just Give me one or two things. How do you address education? How do you increase performance? How do you pay teachers? How do you fix an ailing physical plant?
That one is dear to me because I have many friends who are educators here in the Virgin Islands. And I keep saying one of the biggest problems we have right here is we have low morale with our teachers. My reason for saying that is, if you put me to work and I'm not sure about my tomorrow, do you actually think you're getting 100% out of me? You are not. Our teachers are working without a contract. They don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You're working without a contract. And then when they do give you a contract, the raises that you are promised in the contract, oops, you don't get them. Do you expect this is going to happen? Well, I had a couple of friends who moved off to Florida, and one
before you go there, because I love my teachers too, but what's the plan? What exactly is your plan?
I think that benefits.
Clint's question was for purposes of getting the students to perform at a place that they need to perform, and a plan to be able to pay the educators so they can do exactly what you're talking about, build their morale and teach our children. What exactly is your plan?
One thing that I'd like to introduce here is, in Florida, there's one thing that they use where if most of the teachers have student loans, and if you're a teacher that comes into the school system and you have student loans, a benefit that's granted to you is, as long as you work here, every month your monthly student loan bill is paid under a certain bill.
Right.
That alone may not seem like you're giving someone more money, but you're saving them money, which in turn is money. So it's a benefit that I have seen many teachers leave here on St. Croix and move to Florida for that one benefit, because student loan has been a harassment to them. Not only does it ease the teacher, but it helps the government, because one of our problems is keeping teachers. Every year when school opens, we always have 20, 30 students missing. If you can solidify a teacher's life like that, they're more apt to stay or come back the next year. So we just eliminated two problems with one answer. One simple solution, a benefit.
Okay. Crime. What's your plan to address crime?
One thing we need to understand, we can never get rid of crime. We can curb crime. We can solve certain things and slow it down, but it's going to be very hard to stop. I remember about a year or so back, a certain reporter had an issue. Well, he did a special on the news about guns in the VI. And after the first show, he said, come back tomorrow and we'll have a big special, yada, yada, yada. Guess what? That next day when I got to work, everyone couldn't wait to get home for 7 o'clock news because they wanted to see the second half. You know what the second half was the next day? The second half was, I'm sorry for the show I did. Basically, he was apologizing for what he did, and it was the truth. I think one of our biggest problems here, and this was after investigation, a little thing that I did myself, is that our ports are not properly guarded. They are not. The container port does not have enough people working there. Most of the trailers that come in here are not searched properly. I think.
But those would be under the I would assume under the federal protection, under customs and border patrol, not necessarily the Virgin Islands government. I mean, it's their role, which means you need to work with the delegate to get a lot of that stuff done.
We talk about doing a peace bill, giving them peace officer status. Can we talk about them doing something for us? Are we always the ones to be given? Can't we receive too?
Right. But what's your plan to curtail crime?
To curtail crime.
And I agree with you. You can't eradicate crime completely. I agree with that. But what plans will you put in effect so that we don't have the kind of heinous crimes going on now happening in the future?
For one, I'd like to see more things for our kids to do.
Okay.
And when I say more things for our kids to do, right now kids come off the street, come out of school in the evening time. Where do they have to go? From day one I've been running for the Senate, I've always said, here in St. Croix, we need a YMCA. We need something like a YMCA. A lot of people don't know, but I was kind of privileged to a YMCA in my early years because I had moved up to the States for a little while due to my father's job, and I experienced YMCA. And it's just it's a big gymnasium where there is everything after school needed for a child. That way, it solves a lot of problems because those parents who need after school care for their children, now you know your kids are at a YMCA. they're off the streets, and we're not producing more criminals. See, the criminals that are out there already, we have a lot to do to work on them. But our biggest problem is we're not doing anything for the younger ones who are coming up and following them and seeing this.
No, I agree with you on that.
Now, for the people in the audience, you let them know, where can they find you, and what is your number on the ballot? And if you have a website, what is the website?
Well, my name is Troy Mason. You can find me, basically you can call me, and wherever I'm invited, I will come. My number is 513-4223. I'm number 21 on the ballot. I'm a Democratic candidate to the 30th legislature. I live in Mount Pleasant, Williams Delight, both of them.
Okay, do you have any a website that they can look at?
Yeah, well, basically I have my Facebook site, and I also have a site on Facebook, which is Friends of Troy Mason 2012. Or you can just look up Troy Mason and the link is there. Or you can also email me on my address, which is t_mason27@yahoo.com.
Mr. Mason, thank you so much for appearing on the show tonight. And we will continue to monitor what you're doing. What was your number again for the ballot?
21.
Number 21 on the ballot.
Best of luck to you.
Best of luck to you.
Lucky 21.
We'll be back. Good evening and welcome back to VI Voices. We have with us Senator Terrence Positive Nelson. Senator Nelson, thank you so much for being on the show.
I'm happy to be here.
And welcome to VI Voices.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
And why don't you, for those who are unfamiliar, I can't believe that anybody would be unfamiliar with who you are, but for those who are unfamiliar, kind of let us know who you are and what you've been doing.
Okay, my name is Terrence Positive Nelson. I've been serving in the Senate now for the past 7 years and months. A member of the ICM party. What do you want? A general background, education. I taught as a teacher for the past 9 years prior to being in the Senate. I do believe that the 29th legislature has been my most challenging thus far. I must admit that openly. And I'm just honored to have had the opportunity to serve at the people's
No, I'm glad that you said that it's been the most challenging to you, because I just think the 29th legislature has gone to a new plateau on not serving the public. And there's now recently 2 new bills that came out. Bill number 29424, which deals with deleting the requirement that any employee assigned to regular scheduled work between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Shall be paid a night differential. Means they're taking away the night differential.
Yes.
And the 29431, which basically says or precludes the government employees affected by the 8%, they can seek legal redress to get their money back if the court is to find that the government was incorrect. What is your position on those 2 bills?
Well, clearly I did not vote for Bill 29, that's 0431, which was, I'm sorry, not 431. I did not vote for the 8% cut, which became, I think was 7261. So of course I'm not going to vote for anything that's going to stop employees from seeking redress. I do believe it's unfortunate, especially looking at the spending habit of this administration or the government in general, to cut employee salaries. So of course if they do that back, I'm in support of them getting it back. I will not support this measure. And as it relates to the night differential, people must understand that working at night from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., it's taxing on the body. It's more taxing on the body because that's a time that your body is usually to be at rest. So it's taken away from your length of life. So that's the purpose that they created the differential in the first place, because ultimately you're going to have more sickness because you wear more wear and tear on the body staying up at night. So I cannot never support anything that's going to take away that differential.
But you didn't support the bill, you said earlier, with the 8%.
Yeah, I did not support the measure to cut the salaries.
Senator Stannis was here, he preceded you earlier tonight, and he indicated that the financials are there, that there was transparency, and the senators were provided with the full gamut of the financials from the executive branch that allowed you to make the hard decision of cutting pay.
But again, I disagree. I don't believe that was a decision that had to be made. I think there were other measures that could have been taken and can still be taken to cut the cost of government. No financial I saw showed to me that that was necessary, especially when you look at the fact that as government's hiring since the 8% cut, I think it's clear, and the union should have had a clear case in court.
Senator, the mood right now by the government and its people is this. We're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. That the 29th legislature has been a failure, And it's not just, we're gonna not save 3 and throw the rest, we're gonna throw all them out. What do you say to the people right now who feels disenchanted, so feel like the 29th legislature, even those senators who are non-aligned and in a minority caucus, who have basically felt that they have not done anything for them? Because whether you're on the side of no or the side of yes, you still haven't done anything for them.
Well, I would disagree with the notion that we haven't done anything. I understand the people's frustration and the feel to want to change everybody because, of course, the entire legislature is going to be blamed. This is a majority rules. Hopefully when reason will come to play, when it gets closer to election and the choices are presented to the electorate, they will realize that there have been people who was there crying in the wind all along, that there are other measures to be taken and there are some things we can focus on that can help get us out of this financial dilemma without cutting the service levels and the quality of service of government. I cannot predict how they're going to vote, but I'm hopeful that reasoning sets in when it gets closer, and they will see that there have been some of us who have been there fighting on their side all along, and hopefully not throw out the baby with the bathwater, as you stated.
Now let me ask, what do you think that you have been able to do? Because I believe that the legacy of the 29th legislature is going to be the FAISA and that 8% cut. That's the legacy of the 29th legislature. What did you do as a senator to offer any kind of alternatives to what occurred regarding the FAISA?
I thank you for that question, because Next Generation Leadership, myself, Senator O'Reilly, Senator James, we actually created a proposal presented by 3 of us, which aim to reduce the unclassified segment of government. And it was done in a manner which it would not be immediate impact. It was 150 employees over 90 days for about a 5-year period, which would get us down. We wanted to get that number down to at least 1,000 or below. Right now there's about 1,750 unclassified employees with no rhyme or reason as to why we have that category of employees. We also suggested in that same proposal, instead of cutting pay, you actually cut the work week to 4 days and allow that day to be optional for individuals to do other things with their lives, even spend family time. Let's see what other measures we offered. There were several measures we offered as our own austerity package, which was not received by the majority because they wanted to go along with their proposal.
But Senator, I'm a lot of working men and women. Yes, the VSA came in, and the VSA cut government workers' salaries, but they also afforded government workers to take furlough for a period of time.
Yes.
However, to this day, I don't recall that has been easy for any government workers to take, and that's also the frustration for people who said, okay, yes, you're cutting 8%, yes, let me take some time off, do something else. You're going to afford me insurance and you're going to pay my retirement benefits over time, but you still have not afforded me that opportunity.
Well, you're right, it was not honored. It was not honored. It did not seem it was a sincere proposal. I know of many individuals who actually refused, and they were not essential employees, and I believe the whole thing was just a big sham on the people of the Virgin Islands, and to date, we have not realized the savings which were anticipated by those cuts.
And that, when you're disingenuous in that way, you lose credibility. And I know that you're seeking re-election, and unfortunately for you, being in the minority, I know you're at a disadvantage. But I think that you have had some significant proposals that you have worked on, some legislation that you have in fact been able to, push through. What do you have on the forefront for your agenda if you get re-elected? Looking at the crisis we're in right now, what do you have on the forefront as you get back in?
Thank you very much. I would like to follow through with this feasibility study and hopefully move towards a Virgin Islands retirement system. The GERs currently encompasses only government employees.
Right, exactly.
We would like to see this open up so that private employees and employees can participate. That will do 2 things. That will help to increase the enrollment in GERs, to help to preserve the GERs, and provide some kind of financial security as individuals get older.
You think you're going to get support on that?
Well, the measure was actually passed out of this body already. The GERs has made no move in actually conducting the feasibility study at this point. So it was supported in conducting the feasibility study. I believe we need to continue to push in that way because we can help the small business industries as well.
Senator, are we going to ever see true accountability and transparency from the legislature, from the government and the whole? Let me give you an example. The Roy Lesnar-Snyder scandal broke several years ago. To this day, I've not heard the legislature convene any hearing to find out what went wrong. And
Can I ask you to clarify when you say the Royalist scandal?
Basically when money, the CEO, the COO, and the CFO were all in collusion. They said money was taken, mismanagement of the hospital. To this day, I have not seen a legislative hearing convened to find out what has taken place with Roy Lester Snyder. To this day, GRS, we talk about GRS, but I don't see the membership getting true accountability from the board. Thirdly, the government has yet to make a case to the union and put the financial statements out there to the people saying, this is our true financial picture. And therefore, then the legislature at times is in collusion and acting in concert with all of those agencies, even at times the judicial branch.
Okay, let me see. It's a multi-fold question. Let me see if I remember all the components of it.
Accountability, transparency.
Accountability, transparency. I think that is essential in any organization, accountability in particular, and they need to have checks and balances in place so we can understand real numbers. Regarding and again, multi-fold, I do believe that the legislature can do better at trying, can do better at its oversight responsibilities. I have not seen that exhibited to its full extent in the 29th legislature, like I'll openly admit, as it relates to not having hearings on the hospital issues. Well, that goes to who's chairing those committees of jurisdiction. And yes, it's important for the electorate to understand that when you elect people who just become part of a group and they don't take their oversight responsibilities seriously in calling in certain meetings, when certain things are happening out there in the community, then it just leaves things open so that these sentiments are expressed here tonight. You're right, I agree, there should be hot issues going on. The legislature should call in the right representatives and get answers not only for ourselves, but for the public. So I definitely concur with that. I think what you deem as a scandal at the Roy Lester Snyder is a little more than a scandal. There are actually cases going on right now relative to that issue. And at some point, I guess the courts will rule, not having certain pertinent information. I'm not at liberty to say, guilty or innocent.
It's a pending matter still.
It is a pending matter, and I do believe that in government altogether, this speaks to government's shortcoming in our accounting altogether. My background is accounting, my degree is in accounting. I can tell you that the biggest problem the government has is accounting for its resources, particularly its monies, its inventory of supplies and equipment, and its man hours.
But how can you have different systems where it has been rumored, not even rumored, the audit says it, that the legislature is very loose in its financial practices, loose in accountability, loose in every area. How can we have faith that the legislature is basically doing what it's supposed to do? And you, the member, is holding your other senators to task.
Well, again, as it relates to the legislature, the Senate President is the certifying officer of the legislature. No expenditure, no expense is paid out of the legislature without signature from the President and the Executive Director. No other senator, all we do is make requests for expenditure. It has to be approved through a scrutinized process by the legislature's President and the Executive Director. I will concur with you also that yes, accounting, we should lead by example. The audit for the legislature is very similar to most of the audits conducted over almost any government agencies audited. You will see similar shortcomings, lack of bid process, overpaying for certain projects or certain types of work. I believe the government has just been loose altogether, and it's time to tighten our belts. We can realize savings just from managing our resources to ensure that monies are going for its intended purposes.
Now, you made the reference to scandals, and I think there's a scandal going on right now. He made a reference to scandal, I'm sorry. He made a reference to scandals. But I think there's a scandal going on right now in the legislature that nobody seems to want to deal with. And that's the issue with whether or not one of your members has a right to remain in the legislature. And I want to tie that into election reform. What exactly is the legislature doing? I mean, any of you could have requested that that issue be dealt with. And it just seems to me that everybody's taking a standoff approach that, okay, we don't want to deal with that issue. When is the legislature going to deal with that issue?
I don't think it's an issue right before the legislature yet. The legislature is now who qualifies individuals to run for the Senate. The Board of Election does.
Right, but the legislature is the only place that can deal with, is the only place that can deal with its members when you're already there. That's my people of it.
I agree with you. However, until some court of jurisdiction, whether it be the Board of Election or a court, deems that this is in fact illegal, and then the legislature take an appropriate action after such ruling, fine. But other than that, it will only be seen and deemed political if the legislature was to take any action outside of the Board of Election making a determination or the courts making a determination.
Well, hold on. I don't agree. But let me put it this way. I can't, well, it's too long. I would have to have you come back because I can see him already telling me to wrap things up. But here's what I'm going to let you do. Let the audience know where they can find you, where they can look up your platform information, where they can look up what you've done for the last 7 years that you've been in the legislature, and what you have planned for the people of the Virgin Islands if you are re-elected for the legislature.
Thank you very much. Again, I am your candidate number 5 on the ballot, Terrence Positive Nelson. I have been honest. I have been serious about efficient government and responsive government. My legacy has been one asking for true accounting of this government of the Virgin Islands. Our problem is not that we don't generate enough revenue, but what happens with the revenue generated by this government. If we were to put our money to better use, prioritize, and be disciplined with our spending, we can actually build our way out of the debt that we currently have. I've passed legislation to enhance the EDC program. I've passed legislation to give loans to small businesses called the Small Business Hardship Loan Program. I've passed legislation to push for the establishment of a legislative youth advisory council. This gives young people a chance to participate in making decisions and suggestions, recommendations to the legislature as to what they feel are initiatives that they would like to see come forward. And we've also pushed the agriculture in the classroom. As you know, food is an inflexible commodity. Food is a matter of national security. Food production should be looked at as a hobby, but we should make sure that we're providing food here, stable food supply, just in case we're cut off from the rest of the world. I am serious about being one of your representatives. I'm serious about moving forward and progressing as a Virgin Islands, and I'm asking for your support and your vote come November 6th. I am number 5, Terrence Positive Nelson, for honest, efficient, and responsive leadership in government. With the correct leadership, we can see a better Virgin Islands.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Senator, and I hope that you will definitely come back again if you are invited.
I will be happy to come back. Thank you very much.
We'll be back in a moment. Good evening and welcome back. Tonight was a hot show. I thought that the candidates did extremely well tonight, and it's going to be very interesting how November is going to pan out as we discussed, Bill 424 and 431, which we will continue to discuss throughout this election cycle and see what happens next week.
My offering to this particular segment is apathy. Let's cut the apathy out. Go out, vote.
Right.
And that's all I can say at this time. Since time is limited, go out, vote.
Rock your voice. That's our campaign. I'm going to make sure that you go out and you do so. Vote as though your life depends on it. Next week on the show, on Monday, on the 17th, we're going to have George Moore, Judy Fricks Buckley, and Eugene Lacobinier. And on Tuesday, the 18th, we're going to have Carmen Cintron, Arthur Joseph, and Sherry-Ann Wilshire. So this is going to be very interesting for next week. On Thursday and Friday, the legislature are going to be dealing with these two bills that we've been discussing. So we'll discuss that in our hot topics next week. What happened? I know that you're going to be on location, that you're going to be over there, and you're going to take copious notes to come back and talk to us about what has happened.
Correct.
Right? And so I think we started off a good start this week in getting these individuals here for the people to kind of get a feel for who will be seeking office to represent them.
Correct. And I think if you're a member of a union, you should come out.
That's right.
And voice your concerns. Listen to the hearings. Make sure you engage your senators and let them know. You think about voting for anything that doesn't stand in line with union membership, we are going to let you know. Come November 6th, bye-bye.
Yeah. And this is a critical time that union members, working men and women, you've got to come out. You've got to stand your ground. You've got to let your voice be heard. And yes, you got to rock the vote. You've got to vote.
I just want to wrap up by saying, addressing an issue you brought up earlier about bringing Puerto Ricans here because Puerto Ricans stand up for what they believe in. There's a reason why Puerto Ricans stand up. They have a sense of pride and nationalism about themselves. Unless we have that same kind of pride and nationalism, we ain't going nowhere.
In addition to the Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico, I want the Egyptians because they seem to know what they're doing.
And people have something common.
Well, you're right.
They have an idea, a sense of who they are.
You're right.
But we can't legislate it.
We'll see what happens. Well,
from here.
Be sure to rock your voice. Vote as though your life depends on it. It is VI Voices. We're signing off for yet another night. We will see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Who that?